Ask the experts.
Kenya's Gold. Nita Jamala Saada na Sudi kujiunga nawe siku ya leo, mpenzi mtazamaji, bila shaka naamini kwamba umeketi taratibu. Tuendeleze shughuli nzima kuhusiana na kipindi cha ukulima, kipindi ambacho kinakufunza mengi kabisa kwako kufahamu si ukulima tu, bali utapata nafasi ya kupata hela zako mfukoni. Ni fulusi aina yake, kwa sababu unajua utakuwa umejituma sana kuchanika kwenye mpini ukijua kwamba siku moja kule mfukoni basi utapata nafasi hiyo. Jina langu ni Emmanuel Terer. Habari za wakati huu, naamini uko na afya hafifu kabisa. Hapa utasoma sana kwa sababu nasema kitu kimoja kwamba ni darasani. Salia nasi hadi tufike tamati. Usiondoke katika runinga ya Citizen. Moja kwa moja nikupeleke kwa mwenzangu Ngina ambaye yupo kule Busia. Twende kazi Ngina.
A good look of where I am right now, you could be tempted to think that I am in the coastal beaches. But no, this sandy beach with clear waters and tranquil skies is part of what you get right here in Busia County. And Kenya's Gold is coming through to you live from this great county. Now this week we are channeling all our energy and focus into the 12th annual Lake Region Economic Bloc Summit that is happening in Alupe University. In this hour, we're about to get into a very insightful conversation with think tank experts and of course young people who are the heart and soul of Kenya's Gold as we discuss all matters food security in the wake of climate change. Good evening viewers, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. As promised, we do have an absolutely amazing show lined up for you. But before we get into the conversation, how about we enjoy some culture? Come. Achari. 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 Such amazing culture from these fantastic women with a background of this view. I'm so tempted to stay here forever, but you know, we do have a very important conversation to handle this evening. Come along with me, let us meet our experts of the day.
Na umemwona mwenzangu akinengua viuno bila shaka kwa mbwembwe, madaha, anjam, madoidoi za kila nui. Bila shaka kwa mtazamaji ni kutufuatilia, usishangae sana. Tupo katika shughuli nzima kule Lake Region Economic Bloc awamu ya 12 na inaandaliwa na Gavana Paul Otuoma ambaye ni mwenyeji shughuli hiyo nzima. Anahakikisha kwamba anakutana na wajasiriamali, vile vile wana bodaboda, kina mboga, wana viwanda, wavuvi miongoni mwa wengine. Bila shaka lengo kubwa likiwa ni kuendeleza shughuli ya utoshelevu wa vyakula na kupambana na athari ya mabadiliko tabia nchi. Bila shaka mpenzi mtazamaji, tuangalie katika kaunti ambazo zipo katika Eldoret. Tuanze na kaunti ya Bomet, na kutoka mimi kule nilisikiza jana akizungumza yule afisa mkuu mtendaji akasema kwamba hapa utapata maziwa sana, ni kemkem kweli kweli. Lakini sasa tuangalie Busia ambapo kunaandaliwa shughuli nzima. Ajua kwamba kaunti hii inapatikana kule kuna Kakamega, vile vile tutapata katika nafasi hiyo Kisii anakotoka mwelekezi wangu wa Mbesa. Bila shaka hapa tunahakikisha kwamba pia itaanguka katika awamu hiyo ya Eldoret. Kuna Migori na vile vile kuna Nyamira, Trans Nzoia. Hapa tunajua sana, mara nyingi tukisikiza kuhusiana na mahindi utapata kwamba inazalisha sana, na naamini kwamba wakulima wote wanaofahamu ukitaka nafasi ya kujaza mfuko wako wa hela kutokana na mahindi basi utakwenda kule. Tuangalie vile vile inayokuja nafasi nyingine ni Bungoma, kuna Homa Bay na vile vile Kericho bado kuna nafasi yake. Karibu sana kaunti hizi mbili utapata kwamba Kericho na Kisumu inatagu sana. Basi vile vile kuna Nandi, utapata nafasi hiyo vile vile kuingia katika kaunti ambazo zipo katika Lake Region Economic Bloc. Vile vile kuna Siaya na sasa kuna Vihiga. Vile vile ni kaunti ambazo zinapatikana katika Lake Region Economic Bloc. Na sasa kuna awamu ya pili inafanyika kule, ndo maana tunakukujia mubashara Kenya kutoka kaunti hiyo. Mwenzangu Ngina umemwona akifanya shughuli zake mbwembwe za kila noi, yeye amepiga densi, na bila shaka basi ni nafasi ni kupatie nafasi. Ngina, naja kwako kabisa, umejivaa nadhifu kweli kweli, unapendeza sana. Kazi kwako, chukua hatamu sasa.
Well, we'll most definitely get back to the dancing a bit later, but for now, allow me to welcome you to Kenya's Gold special live broadcast, and we are coming through to you right here from Alupe University in Busia County, courtesy of the 12th annual Lake Region Economic Bloc Summit that has been happening this week. In our audience, we do have a great team of people that I'll introduce a bit later. But first, allow me to introduce our panelists. We do have our host, Governor, His Excellency Dr. Paul Otuoma. Thank you so very much for hosting us and making time to be with us this evening. We also do have the chairman of the Lake Region Economic Bloc and also the Governor of Kisumu County, His Excellency Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. Thank you so much for being here. We also do have the chair lady of the First Ladies of the Lake Region Economic Bloc, Her Excellency Mrs. Emily Nyaribo, and finally we have the Governor of Vihiga County, His Excellency Otichilo Wilba. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today. And of course, in our audience, we have members of the community, from farmers to students to all the people, but the border riders who are making sure that we are pushing the economy of this block higher. Wahera? Good stuff. All right, so we're just going to get right into the conversation. The theme of the summit this year was food security in the face of climate change. And I'd just like to get straight to you, His Excellency Dr. Paul Otuoma. Please talk to us about the significance of hosting this summit right here in Busia, and also how you're planning on converting these development partners that you have attracted with the summit into helping transform climate change into opportunities for these members of the community that we do have right here with us.
Thank you once again, and let me thank all participants and welcome again our guests in Busia County. As you are aware, this is a regional meeting that is hosting 14 counties in a Lake Region Economic Bloc, holding a population of almost 15 to 16 million Kenyans who are within this bloc. And you are aware, even this year, we were having COP29 just around this time. And it's also coming on the backdrop of food security for our population, our rapidly growing population, like I've just mentioned. And climate change is real, is here with us. If you look at the rain patterns, if you look at the floodings, and even in Busia here, we have borne the brunt of climate change. Sometimes you find it floods in Bedalange and there is no rain because of what is happening in the upper regions. And they happen to be part of the Lake Basin Bloc, who happen also to be then members of this county, so that whatever we are doing, we are living in one ecosystem that is affecting all of us. So today we are happy that we had come here to come up with ideas, practical ideas on how well to mitigate that. Despite climate change, we need to take care of our environment, but again, how do we ensure that despite all those changes, we are able to feed our people through proper methods, what we are now calling smart agriculture, leveraging on the blue economy that gives us a lot of opportunities. So I'm very happy to really welcome the policymakers, the players, the citizens of this country, the farmers, as you have said, the young people, the agripreneurs that we are now talking about.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Professor Nyang', I'm going to come to you next. Now, when we're talking about climate change, we do realize it comes with climate shocks like floods and drought. Please talk to us about how, as a bloc, you're making sure you're prepared for disaster risk management that comes with matters climate change that can cushion these members of our community.
Thank you very much. I think this is why, and I thank Paulo Tuma, Governor of Busia, for hosting us for this meeting. First, people must be made aware about climate change and its risks. Secondly, people might be made aware that the manner in which we have produced food traditionally may not be viable today. Thirdly, with increase in population, coupled with climate change, coupled with difficulties producing food production as we did before, we must learn to produce food in a smaller space than we did before. Large gardens sometimes are not available to people today because of population growth. So unit production of food, for example, corn gardening, for example, household gardening, a small space but producing more food than before. Therefore, the intensive use of space, using fertilizers, safe fertilizers, of course, making sure that you don't use too much water, requires a change of mind of our people. Hence, a conference like this to make people aware of new methods of food production, new methods of land use, new methods of reacting to climate change without panicking. Because when you panic, you do the wrong things. Quite often when there are floods, our people panic. You must make sure that when there are floods at governors, we take people from flooding places to safe areas, and we educate them that don't go back to where danger already is. Please stay here. We shall make sure that you lead your life much better than a flood-prone area.
Right. So right now, if you was to give us a scale of 1 to 10 as a bloc, how do you think we're doing when it comes to disaster risk management that is caused by climate change? How would you rate us?
But I think I would rate us about 6 out of 10.
10?
Not 10, 6.
All right.
You know why I say 6?
Please tell us.
Because we must leave a good room for improvement. If we put it too much near 10, we will be very lazy and very relaxed, and that is no good at all. It's better to challenge ourselves with a lower grade so that we are prepared for the future, rather than lax in the present when we are not fully prepared.
Right, thank you so much, and I'll come straight to you, Her Excellency Mrs. Nyaribo. Now, we will be talking about women in the space of agriculture. More often than not, especially in communities within this bloc, you'll find when it's time to allocate land, the sons are given more priority as compared to the women, and sometimes that makes it very difficult for women to participate in agriculture because the resources are not handed to them as easily as they should. Please talk to us about the strategies we are putting in place to also position women as people who need top spot in agriculture.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for this summit. Culture plays a big role in our lives. There is retrogressive culture and there is progressive culture. But the law has equalized has equalized us all. So under the law, the women are supposed to have as much land as the man is given by virtue of inheritance. But in actuality, that doesn't happen because of what happens within our culture. So what we have tried to do is speak to those who hold custody, or the custodians of culture, who are the men within the society, that it is good to follow the law, that it is good, men and women are equal, and we are not saying we are the same, we are saying we are equal. What a man can do, a woman can do better, and vice versa. So women have now taken the space of education to make themselves better, to earn a better living, and where they cannot be able to access ancestral land, they can be able to buy their own land. So as first spouses of this region, we have gone out to educate our girls to try and finish school, educate our men to ensure that their girls go to school to completion and they should pay their fees. To also encourage the male community to leave the school girls alone, to allow them to finish their education and not impregnate them, so that we have very many teen mothers. At the same time, we are also telling the women to grow crops that are of higher value, so that they have enough for their food in the house and they have something small to sell, so that they are economically empowered, so that all the time they are not under the hand of a male, because it is possible for women to stand up for themselves. And after all, it is women who feed the homesteads, it's women who feed our communities.
Right. Does it become a bit of a challenge when we're talking about how cultural practices sometimes come in the way, but also at the same time, we also encourage us to protect and preserve our African culture? How do you balance those two spaces?
I started by saying there is positive culture and there's retrogressive culture. So really what we want to weed off is the retrogressive culture. For example, FGM, that is not progressive at all. But equality is good if we can embrace that, so that all of us, all your children have equal access to the resources that are available to you.
Right.
The culture that we want to preserve is those cultures that actually advance us, like respect. That is a good culture. If you can respect your elders, that is good. It comes with a blessing.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Now straight to you, His Excellency Wilbur Otichilo. We are now in a space where we are encouraging young people to get into the space of agriculture, given that most of the farmers that we do have in our country are 55 years and above. But sometimes when you're talking about young people in there are different categories. We have persons with disability, we have women, we have the marginalized communities. How do we ensure that we just don't put them in a blanket, but we make sure we take care of all these people with their special needs?
Thank you for this opportunity. And first, I want to take this opportunity to thank our colleague, Dr. Tuoma, for hosting this summit, and for all those who are in attendance. Climate change is a reality and is affecting everybody on this planet. And we recently just ended the conference of parties in Baku, Azerbaijan. And therefore, as the region, we are taking climate change very seriously. Right. And that's why we have this summit. Back to your question, I would like to say that our youth must be encouraged to get into agriculture. But then it must be different. Agriculture must offer an opportunity as an employment, as a business, but not as subsistence. Our forefathers, we old people, we practice agriculture as a subsistence. But for the youth, we need to encourage agribusiness, doing agriculture as an occupation, as a business. So that is an area of interest. And given the opportunities that climate change is giving, it has both negative and positive opportunities. With the positive opportunities the climate change is giving is that we are now new technologies of agricultural production, where now you need not to follow the conventional ways of producing food or producing vegetables for agriculture, for, let's say, for sale. For example, we need now to go into conservation agriculture.
Right.
And that's an area where youth will play very well, because you don't need rain-fed agriculture, and you can control all your parameters for production. We need to encourage our youth now to go into green technology, green production,
right,
where they're using greenhouse technologies in the production of food. And we need to go into production of foods that are don't take a long time, that can take a shorter time, and therefore having that for the market is very easy. So their position is that the youth should be encouraged to get into food production, and the technologies are there. And you, by the way, you don't need land. With the climate change, you may not need big tracts of land to produce food, because with the new technology, you can produce food in a very short, in a very small area. You can produce food also vertically. So I think it's a very good opportunity for our youth to get into agricultural production as a business, as a job creation.
Right. And while at it, are we taking care of the youth who are living with disability?
Yes, I would say that yes, there is a lot of capacity building that is being initiated at the county level to introduce our youth into agriculture as a business, and being shown how best to go into agriculture that is technology driven.
Right. Thank you so very much for that. I'll come to you, our host, Governor Paul Otuoma. And we know that one of the biggest effects of climate change is the fact that fish from capture fisheries has declined steadily over the last years. And a way to mitigate that is we have been encouraging our farmers to practice cage fish farming. Although over the last month, a lot of farmers are counting losses over mass death of fish. Please talk to us about what are we doing to help our farmers, our fishermen and women who rely on this economic activity, and now they're facing challenges with that which is the option to climate change.
Thank you so much. I think you are right. We lost quite a number of fish, and especially from those who are doing it in the lake.
Right.
And we have to apologize, especially we as a government, because one of the things that we say, you know, all these things as we are talking here, they are technology and knowledge driven. When we went to find out the solution, the problem was just oxygen. And you see, I was asking our technical teams, I mean, we are not monitoring the environment to know, because you must also do risk assessment when you invest on this kind of thing. And it came out that already even part of the lake had been mapped, and they are aware of very low oxygen areas.
Right.
So it was a bit of a surprise to me, especially from our technical teams. Then why were you allowing farmers to put cages in areas that are vulnerable to very low oxygen, what they call upwelling? Because that information is available, but it was not being disseminated. So these things we talk about awareness, holding these kind of conferences, sometimes people think is a waste of time. But I want to tell you, information dissemination is so critical. Because if we don't do that knowledge transfer to farmers, have extension services, people being able to, you know, advise farmers that this is where you are supposed to be doing this, and then you are able to do it correctly.
Right.
Secondly, even at our national level, we have been talking for many, many years that Kabonyo Fish Farm in Kisumu, which our chair happens to be the governor, we said long time ago that that should be a research station for the region, for the Lake Region Economic Bloc as a basin, so that research is done there, and then counties, we do what we call multiplication, distribution, and extension services.
Right.
Because we are talking about smart agriculture. We cannot continue to practice, you know, these hunter-gatherer kind of activities whereby you are doing farming like guesswork. We need to know that, you know, this area is suitable, the studies are there. And I was surprised that when we had a meeting in Nairobi with the farmers, you know, that data is available. But unfortunately, it had not been disseminated. And that is where we were having those problems, both here. In fact, it was in the whole region. In Kisumu, we had deaths, in Siaya, in Busia, all the way to Migori. So it's a bit unfortunate, and that's why we decided to mitigate, both ourselves and the national government and development partners, to try and cushion the farmers who had really lost their fish. But that should not be there in future. We must make sure that we provide proper fingerlings, fish fingerlings. We must give proper feed, and we must give proper extension services. And that's what we are talking about, smart agriculture in view of climate change. Because you can no longer go in the lake nowadays and do that hunter-gatherer and guess that, you'll throw a net and somehow a miracle will happen and you'll catch fish. It is not there. So we must adopt to these new methods of doing things. So that was a bit unfortunate, but the potential is still there.
Thank you so very much for that. And I'd like to stick on that simply because you've mentioned that after following up, you got to know what was the problem. And a day after we learned that there was a mass death, Kemfree came with more regulations on what people need to do. So we'd like to know from you, are the people who are supposed to regulate the cage fish farms, they're supposed to tell us this is the place to put it. If they don't do it, are we holding them accountable so that we make sure that this doesn't happen again? But you'll answer that when we come back from this short commercial break that we are about to take. And also we're going to open the floor to audience who I know they're very keen to ask questions when it comes to all matters agriculture and climate change. I can see some of them on that far end nodding. And also when we wind up, like we always do right here at Kenya's Gold, we're going to have a farm joke question of the day. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back from this short commercial break.